Okay, the session is now being recorded. And I'm just going to give me one moment to share my screen. Okay, we should all be seeing the presentation. All right, I think we're good to go. First question, just before I get started, I should ask already, can everyone hear me okay? If a couple people can just put in the chat that they can hear me, that'd be great. All right, excellent. Thank you so much. Perfect. Okay. Oh, look at that. And I'm all the way at the start of my slide. Let me go back up to the start. Okay, here we go. My name is Darren Lokema. I'm Assistant Superintendent for Compliance and Information Systems. I want to thank everyone here on behalf of the District Superintendent, Mr. Jose Carrion, for taking the time to attend our our grade 11 1:30 session for Wappinger CSD Reopening Parent Forum. Your time is greatly appreciated. We do have a presentation. I'll be co-presenting today with our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Michelle Cardwell. I do want to say that we do have a presentation to go through. The presentation does cover some of the information we received from New York State, and then the bulk of the presentation deals with or tries to answer a number of questions that we received from our parent forum. We received many questions in our parent forum. We took those questions and consolidated them down to the most commonly asked questions, and we'll be reviewing the answers to those most commonly asked questions here in this presentation. But we will not be reading the slides. We'll go through the slides as quickly as we can and provide you with time at the end so that way we can try and facilitate some questions and answers then as well. So I apologize in advance if we can't answer all of your questions. There's definitely going to be some questions we don't have answers to right now, but we will be taking those questions and providing answers in the coming days, and we'll post those Q&As on our website. So without further ado, we will get started. The first couple of slides really just, and I'm not going to read through them, don't worry, come from bullets from the New York State Education Department. Mandated requirements for when we do online learning here in the fall. There's a number of different categories that the New York State Education Department covers. This is a clickable link here at the top. You could always go there if you wish to find. You could go there if you wish to find the full content of this page. And the first category was teaching and learning that we would cover. And the only thing I'm really just going to say off of this, as far as a mandated requirement from the state is asking that school districts in their remote learning plans ensure that there is substantial daily interaction between teachers and students. So that's going to be a particular topic that that is something that's very important for us, as well as to make sure that we have substantial daily interaction between teachers and students as we kick off a remote instruction here in September. Social and emotional well-being is another important topic. We know that students have been outside of school for a very long time. We know that they have not been perhaps seeing some of their peers and a lot of their friends and missing the structure of school. And that can certainly have a detrimental effect, especially for students who are feeling very isolated. So we need to ensure that we have meaningful and intentional curriculum or embedded curriculum involving social and emotional well-being throughout all the studies that we have. And so the district will be working very hard to ensure that we are accounting for not only our students' physical health, but their social and emotional health as well. Special education is another very important topic. State Education Department says, that we must, of course, engage our parents in providing recommendations for how we can provide accommodations for all of our students who need it. And these accommodations will help make sure that they have access to our free and appropriate public education, and that these accommodations are best suited to help our students in need be able to perform, or at least have access to the curriculum that is on grade level with their peers. One of the other mandates that the schools must come up with, according to the State Education Department, is that we must develop a mechanism to collect and report daily teacher, student, or attendance. So we're just talking about daily attendance taking, which definitely did not happen in the spring. The state says that we must take daily attendance, record that in our student information system the way we would do normally as if it was in-person instruction. And so we would expect as we do that, we'll be probably doing those robocalls. If you remember, if you have a designated, if you have an absence noted in your child's record, that day or that evening, you will get a notification via phone call saying that your son or daughter was absent from school that particular day. I foresee some troubles with this. I'm sure there'll be some trial and error. So please bear with us. If we inaccurately report an attendance issue with your child, just call the school. It will be no problem for us to make that correction if necessary. The next few slides really talk about the most recent two news conferences from the governor's office as they pertain to opening schools. The first one was July 13th, and it talked about opening schools in our region, that the state has a formula. The formula basically says that if a region is in phase 4, which we are, the whole state is in fact, and the daily infection rate remains below 5%, which it certainly is today, our schools will be able to open. If schools, if the regional infection rate is greater than 9%, schools will be asked to, well, will be told they must close. So it was of no surprise to us when August 7th came around that Governor Cuomo said all schools can open across the state, as long as, in the next couple of slides, really just talk about some of the quotes that came out of that governor's address. You can listen to the entire governor's address when you click on this title for the slide right here. It'll go to the recording. We took some quotations out of the governor's address, ones that we thought were interesting and relevant and would have an impact on our ability to make a decision about opening up schools in September. Certainly, the governor had indicated that and acknowledged that there's a significant level of anxiety and concern between parents and teachers, and that he wanted districts to do. He said two things, but he listed three specific things. By August 21st, we are to post our remote learning plan, a separate component of a remote learning plan on our website, as well as our plans for doing health screening and contact tracing. So some of this stuff still needs to be worked out because the level of detail and specificity that we believe he is asking us to provide are ones that we're not necessarily ready to provide. And some of what we learned in terms of what was necessary for us to provide, we learned during the news conference on the 7th. So with that being said, the governor also asked that we have these public forums. These public forums, I know what today is, this one is a grade 11 public forum, but the reality is we did have one for every grade level. It was the same PowerPoint essentially, but we were using an online meeting tool, and there was a concern that if we invited larger groups at one time, all of K to 6 or all of high school at the same time, not everybody would have enough capacity to join this meeting, and we certainly didn't want folks to not have a chance to participate. So we divided up these meetings into grade level groups, and that's why we're having so many of them. So even though we call it grade 11, not everything in here will pertain to grade 11, but we'll do our best, and certainly we'll entertain any questions at the end as they do pertain. So if you have questions, please do add them into the chat. We're also going to have meetings with our teachers and administrators. When a reporter asks the governor, this is one of the more interesting questions about what should schools do when it comes to people with who are asymptomatic. And the governor had responded, one of the top 5 questions I'm asked is how do we prevent asymptomatic people from infecting other people in schools, similar to how people got infected in nursing homes. The governor goes on to say, some school districts have a better answer than others. It's up to the local district to come up with a plan. Yes, temperature taking is a concern. Test that child who has a temperature. But what about asymptomatic spread? How do you detect asymptomatic spread when the only way you can detect asymptomatic spread is when you get sick? He goes on to say, but that is a very good question, one that the local school districts have to answer. That was a little bit of a surprise when he noted that the local school districts have to address the question about how do we detect asymptomatic spread. Clearly, we are not a healthcare provider. We are an educational institution. We are educators. We are not being given COVID test kits. We certainly don't have a lab to process those kits. So we just need a lot more detail as to what exactly is being asked of us in that when he made that statement. In addition, from the governor's office, he kind of concludes near the end, you need 2 things to open school, students and teachers. Students you cannot force back, and you don't want to get into a legal battle with the teachers. They cannot teach if they do not feel safe. You cannot order a teacher into a classroom and tell them to teach if they do not feel safe. I'm telling you there's going to need to be significant discussions. They, meaning the teachers, raise important issues, and they need to be comfortable. And to that point, we're a very large school district. Out of the 700 plus school districts in the state, we usually rank somewhere in the top 10 or 12, and beyond the big 5 school districts in the state. And just to get a sense of how large we are and how much responsibility we acknowledge that we have when it comes to number of families, students, faculty, and staff, we are certainly the largest school district in Dutchess County. The smallest being Weebatuck with 653 students that's enrolled K to 6 compared to Wappinger's 10,645 students enrolled K to 6. That was last year's enrollment information. Oftentimes we're even compared to Arlington, but you can see by this chart that we're even significantly larger than Arlington in terms of size. But we just wanted to note that we have a large population of students, a lot of families, and we have a lot of responsibility. So we want to make sure that when we open school, it is safe to do so. The superintendent thought it was important to show districts in our area, and by our area, we mean Dutchess, Orange, Rockland, Westchester, Putnam counties, any school districts in those areas that have more than 6,000 students enrolled. Those students, or those districts that you can see in yellow, there's a typo here, I should have corrected that, sorry, are districts that are all going to be starting their school year remotely. Yesterday, Clarkstown was blue, just like Haverstraw was. Yesterday was blue. Because they were going to start hybrid. They announced last night that they were actually going to do remote. 2 days ago, White Plains was blue. It was hybrid. Now they're saying that they're going to go remote. So as more districts consider everything that's ahead of them, it seems like going remote is going to be a more is going to be an option that you're going to see more and more out of districts in our area. Certainly of ones of a sizable enrollment like ours. I am going to probably jump. I'm going to jump out of this presentation and just show you a chart that you may have already seen. This link will be clickable. There's a clickable link to go to the PDF that this link references. And once this presentation is made available to you, either end of day today or early tomorrow morning on our website, you'll be able to go in here and click on this as well. This is our timeline for transitioning from remote learning to hybrid learning. And you can see that the way it reads is all students in grades K to 12 will be beginning September 10th on a remote learning schedule. By the end of September, we'll begin our transition into a hybrid learning schedule with K to 2 students coming in, followed by grades 3, 4, then 5, 6, 7, 8, and then finally by the end of October, all of 9 through 12 will join. The gradual roll-in phase-in will allow us to assess and evaluate our processes and procedures as it relate to social distancing, communications, health screenings, etc. A whole gamut of things that we know that we need to monitor and keep track of as students and staff return to the buildings. So with this model, we're hoping to be able to do so, and it could change slightly as necessary depending on how everything goes. But this is what we're starting off and communicating with our parents in terms of how this will start. So you can see that grade 9, 10, 11 will not start for in-person instruction on a hybrid model until October 26th. And what that looks like is, as you've already probably been made aware, is that we're going to be dividing our students into 2 cohorts, an A and a B group. A will be students whose last name begin with A through K will be in cohort A. Students whose last name begin with L through Z will be in cohort B. We know that alphabetical breakdown is not perfect. That's not the best solution to use, but it's a place to start. So we know that exceptions will be made. Just let us know. We know that there's families who have multiple last names under the same roof, and that you might need to have some students retitled into or reclassified as cohort A or B. We'll be very flexible with you on that. Just please contact your building administrator if you need to have any changes made to your child's cohort designation. But cohort A will be in school Monday and Tuesday. All students will be remote learning on Wednesday, and then cohort A will continue remote learning Thursday, Friday. The converse will be cohort B will begin the week Monday, Tuesday remote learning, Wednesday remote learning, Thursday, Friday in-person learning in the hybrid model. Our family survey was divided up into 11 categories. There's 11 categories that we asked parents to provide us with questions on directly. We took all those questions in, hundreds of questions, and we collated those, and we put them into, we identified the most commonly asked questions and through the remainder of these slides, we will do our best to provide you the answers for those questions, which will hopefully answer a lot of questions that you have ahead of time. But certainly, again, for those maybe who just joined late, type any questions that you have into the chat. We will have about 15 minutes at the end to go through all of those questions that are submitted and be able to try and provide some of the answers for you. But first, we're going to start off with teaching and learning, and I'm going to just mute my phone and ask Dr. Cardwell to speak to these next few slides.
Thank you, Mr. Lokema, and good afternoon, everyone. So now you know that starting September 10th, all students will begin school remotely. So the question is, what will remote learning look like? Well, students will be provided with learning opportunities that are both synchronous and asynchronous. So students will have time where they are participating in live instruction provided by their teachers, as well as participating in asynchronous learning activities that help support the learning. The synchronous activities are work that can be done independently by the students. The exact schedule of the synchronous learning will vary depending upon grade bands, and that information will be provided to families and students prior to the start of the school year. Teachers will send students, especially the high school students, via their emails, login information from when they will log into live learning, as well as how to access the asynchronous activities that are planned. When students do transition into the hybrid model, they will also participate in synchronous activities during those remote learning days. So, of course, when the students are in session in person on 2 of those days, they will be working with the teachers. When they are working remotely on the 2 days that the other cohort go to school, they will be participating in asynchronous activities that support the learning that took place the previous days they were in school. And that 5th day, that Wednesday, as it is scheduled, students will participate in some form of asynchronous and synchronous activities according to a particular schedule that is sent out by the teacher. So more details on that to follow. We are in the process of finalizing the schedules with the Wappingers Congress of Teachers and the Wappingers Administrators Association. We are also in the process of finalizing the grading procedures. We are being mindful to make sure that whether we use a grading procedure similar as regular in-person instruction, or whether we choose a different format, that it does not affect GPA or class ranking. We want to make sure that the students have every opportunity to continue their standards for getting into higher education, should they desire to do so. We're very excited that we have 5 days of professional development for our staff. There are many topics that we need to cover in order to make sure our staff is comfortable for remote learning and hybrid learning. We have to address all health and safety concerns. We have to make sure that we are adhering to the Department of Health and CDC guidelines, and a lot of professional development will be provided to staff in these areas on those days. In addition, we will spend a lot of time on looking at norms and consistency and expectations regarding teaching and learning. What are the activities and assignments that work well through a synchronous model versus an asynchronous learning opportunity? And we will also integrate social and emotional learning into the curriculum to make sure that our students are supported, understanding that some of them may have had a difficult time with the extended school closures. So as of August 14th, the New York State Public High School Association has said that the fall sports season will not begin until September 21st. We are expecting an update to come out shortly regarding the start of the fall season. As of now, we're waiting for further details to see if the fall sports season will resume. We do know that the fall regional and state championships events have been canceled, but as soon as the district hears about the start of the fall season, we will reach out to families and students and inform everyone of the process. We also understand and value extracurricular activities and understand their role that they play in ensuring and developing well-rounded students. Extracurricular activities will be phased in slowly. Each activity will be reviewed at the building level, and we will resume activities as appropriate, whether in person and or remotely. Concerts and theater productions tentatively will not be held during the first semester. We will make a decision around January to decide if concerts and theater productions will be held in the second semester. All this is subject to change depending upon the status of the county and the state regarding the pandemic. There will be music, band, chorus, and orchestra. We had many questions on that. For remote learning, there will be synchronous and asynchronous activities. There will be lessons that the teachers do provide to the students, and you will get more information on that as well as your children when those will be conducted. When we are in person doing the hybrid model, students will adhere to all social distancing guidelines, whether it's the 6 foot or the 12 foot. There will be places that are marked where students can stand and or sit. Students will not share music, instruments, or stands. We will make sure that we are adhering to all guidelines during these subjects. And we do understand the importance and the value that that these extracurricular activities and these lessons have for all students. In addition, we will make sure that all health and safety guidelines regarding physical distancing and cleanliness are maintained. We will make sure that physical education, when appropriate, will be held outdoors, weather permitting. When physical education needs to be brought inside, we will make sure that students are adhering to all proper protocols. Darren, move to the next slide. I covered that one. I went quickly. And at this point, I am going to turn the presentation back over to Darren. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Next category was child nutrition. We're talking about student lunches. Yes, students can bring their lunches to school. We're not 100% sure, there's only so much classroom space. I mean, our cafeteria space. We know that the high school cafeterias are largest in their district, but they still probably can't hold half our students at a socially distant apart. So while they're socially distant apart, you still might have 150 students in the cafeteria at a given time in a hybrid learning model. So our building principals will definitely have to think about where students will be allowed to eat and what their lunch period might actually look like. As far as the menu choices themselves go, there will be an extremely limited menu. A single hot or cold breakfast lunch option will be available. It'll be available in a grab-and-go fashion. Milk will be the only offering. Someone asked if bottled water would be for sale. I still got to get an answer for that. But milk will be, I'm sure water, I'm guessing water is available. But what I was told was milk will be the only offering for sale besides, only thing for sale as an offering besides breakfast and lunch. For those with a milk allergy, arrangements can be made for soy milk as necessary. There'll be no snacks, no other novelty items like ice creams or anything like that available. For students when they are remote learning, either in a hybrid model or full-time remote learning, the district will still provide free and reduced grab-and-go lunches as a curbside pickup option for all students who are eligible for free or reduced lunch. We'll offer meals to all students, but students who are eligible for free or reduced lunch will get the grab and go as necessary at either the reduced rate or free. Anyone else is, of course, allowed to come to pick up that grab and go lunch, but you would have to pay for it. There was a category of communication, family, and community engagement. There was a number of different questions that showed up there. In there, we cover a couple of things that are of interest to our families. School schedules will be available in Parent Portal as they always are. We're going to have them available by the end of August. once the schedules are available, we will be notifying everyone via phone, email, and text that they're ready for you to review. Yesterday, I sent out another Chromebook request form, a new Chromebook request form for the upcoming fall semester. We do not have many Chromebooks left. We've already received a very, very, very large number of requests for Chromebooks, so we're going to start weeding through those now. But most of our devices that were already loaned out in the spring, we asked families to keep them over the summer, knowing that we might have to hand them out again in the fall. They have done so. Therefore, our inventory is low, but we'll give out everyone that we can to borrow as necessary. There'll be an online, I believe that the building principals are going to do an online video, maybe video recorded. I'm not sure, orientation for our freshmen. There'll be more information about that. If there's other opportunities that we can do to provide to our juniors in terms of any kind of online orientation or something for our students, faculty, our students and families, our principals, faculty, staff, be happy to set up different things through the month of September. This would be and beyond, this is above and beyond synchronous learning. Survey results from the parent survey will be posted on our website once it is closed, which will probably be later this week. Airflow in the building from a health and safety category perspective will be increased from 10% to 20 to 30%. Yes, we'll be cleaning restrooms more often throughout the day. We're going to have to hire more custodial staff to make that happen. General cleaning will happen on Wednesdays, but every building will get cleaned on a nightly basis. And a larger cleaning day Wednesday, and one of the weekend days, the district has purchased a number of disinfecting machines, which will spray a mist of disinfectant on all surfaces. The trick, though, that a tricky part with high schools is how do we clean our buildings between each class period? We've had parents offer to send their students in with sanitizing wipes. That certainly, we certainly don't condone students having to use cleaning products in school, but that's something that we could talk about. If we had to buy wipes for every classroom for everyone to use every single day in between periods, we're being told there isn't enough product out there for us to even meet that demand. As we would have to use thousands of wipes every day. Contact tracing, a large piece of what the governor is asking schools to provide. The Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health, that organization we usually refer to as the Department of Health, is coming up with a unified contact tracing plan for all the school districts in our county. That'll be very helpful. As soon as that document is ready, we'll share that on our website and then that was going to help answer a lot of questions about how we're going to deal with contact tracing. Who do we contact if someone is sick and they've been in contact with others, and who has to quarantine and all that. So we're waiting for more information about that. Similarly, for asymptomatic cases, thinking about what the governor said, hoping to hear further guidance also from the Department of Health. And then as far as symptomatic cases go, we have all of that outlined in our online plan. So we welcome you to go through that document in that section on what to do if someone is presenting symptoms in school. Every day that student comes to school or staff come to school, we'll be asking them to do an online health screening. It's from a company called Easy Screen. Easy Screen does work with schools. In the past, they've been primarily known as a concussion protocol screener for student athletes. I've adapted their tool to allow for daily COVID-19 health screening. So we're going to be investing in that product. Other risk mitigation factors will include hand sanitizing stations will be available in every hallway of every school. Masks will be available for everyone who needs one throughout the day, whether or not they lost theirs, soiled theirs, broke theirs, never came to school with one. We'll have some for them. Locks are going to be installed on all the water fountain bubblers. That's the button that you push to get that stream of water. Those will be covered and locked. You won't be able to push a button on the water fountains, but you will be able to use the bottle fillers. That'll still work. We're going to keep windows open to the greatest extent possible, add soap dispensers in all of our restrooms, disable hand dryers in the restrooms so it doesn't blow around the germs. Nursing staff will have extra PPE. Kitchen and greeter desks will have those Lexon, basically clear plastic shields. Ventilation systems, we talked about that. We monitor on an ongoing basis. We're going to try to implement student lanyards and photo IDs as a way to supplement, with everyone wearing a mask. We want to see if we want to make sure we have IDs on hand. Remove any soft surfaces that are difficult to disinfect, such as area rugs or fabric chairs. Social distancing is a big deal. Obviously, we have to give everyone 6 feet of space between each other. We found that a decent formula to use is to divide up available square feet by 44. That's of course after you remove, take off the option of using space that's already occupied by furnishings or any other space that the teacher needs to provide their instruction. So all the space that is left after that, and some of our classrooms, they range in size from 600 to maybe 1,100 square feet. There's only so much square footage in every room, but we divide that remaining square feet by 44, and we seem to be averaging anywhere, depending on the size of the classroom, between 10 and 16 students per classroom. So it's not a very big number, but and we're gonna have to make any accommodations we can to ensure that that people fit in with their scheduled class times. If we're talking about choral or singing classes, playing a wind instrument, or any kind of aerobic activity resulting in heavy breathing, at 6 feet between persons of social distancing will be extended to 12 feet. We are also expecting students and staff to wear face masks to the greatest extent possible. I mean, we can't say all day because they have to eat. Students need to eat lunch. They can't eat and wear a mask. And I'm sure it's to some degree, some people are going to have to take breaks here or there. We're going to do our best to ensure, though, that students and staff wear their masks to the greatest extent possible. Social emotional learning, there was a lot of questions about that category. A lot of these bullets basically cover what was being asked. Yes, we have staff assigned in our buildings who can support students needed, who have needs for social emotional support. We're going to be providing additional training. We'll be partnering with community-based mental health providers. We'll be offering workshops to families and students to address common concerns of family and student health, and where necessary, purchasing curriculum materials that can help support the implementation of social emotional learning into our curriculum. Excuse me. Special education is a very, very important category, and one that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, though, because we now have scheduled for Monday, August 24th, 2 additional parent forums for the category of special education. One will be at 10 a.m. and the other will be at 4 p.m. You will get a notification from Dr. Amy Watkins, if you haven't already, with the invitation and meeting calendar invite information, the links, just like you did for this meeting, from her. But basically, when school starts September 10th, we're definitely going to have to hit the ground running, making sure that students, if we have any new students who need initial referrals to the Committee on Special Education, is going through that process. We have to make sure that any written goals in our students' individual education plans are written in a way that they can be flexible for what kind of learning environment our students are in, whether it be online or in person. We need to be able to pivot from one to the other as necessary. We did have our annual high school summer school, as well as our annual extended school year program, 100% online this summer. And what I'm being told is that we did learn a lot of things about delivering instruction in 100% online, using some intentionally different strategies that resulted in better best practices for providing remote learning. So we were hoping to take some of those best practices learned and apply them to our remote learning setting come September. Anytime that a student sees related service providers, if we can do it online, we'll make it as synchronous as possible. When it's in person, obviously our staff will be wearing all the required PPE. We also acknowledge that there might be issues where some students will not be able to do will not be able to learn at all remotely, and that they might need more in-person instruction as necessary and as determined probably through the CSE process. We will bring in students who need more in-person time, up to 4 days a week as we can, based on social distancing and the like, whenever it is possible to do so. We have another population of high needs students. Those are our English language learners that are in our district. We do have almost 200 English language learners in our district, and we know that we need to provide additional support for them as well. And then as well as our general ed students, our students who are falling behind their peers but are not classified. They go through our academic intervention processes. As hard as it is to deliver academic intervention supports, especially at the high school level, to students while they're in person. It's even harder while remote learning, but we will do our best to continue to provide services, identify students, progress monitor those students, and apply different instructional strategies to hopefully get them extra support they need to address any kind of academic deficiencies that they have. Transportation is the last category in this presentation. And then we'll have plenty of time after I go through these transportation slides to address any questions you have in the chat. So keep the chat questions coming. Our school buses will be ventilated to the greatest extent possible. On good weather days, we will open windows and open roof vents. We will be routing our buses with only 22 students on it. That's 1 student per seat. That number can increase slightly as siblings are allowed to ride together in the same seat. Private and parochial schools, if they are open, will get their bus on a regular, as per usual. We are legally responsible to provide busing, and we're happy to do so once those schools tell us what their transportation needs are. Transportation routes for private and parochial schools will be available Monday, August 24th. Public school bus routes will be posted on our website the week of September 14th. Question came up about why do we have to limit if students wear, why do you have to limit the number of students who ride if students have to wear masks? The Department of Health, the Department of Education have said that students must be socially distant and must wear masks when on the school vehicle. If there's any reason why students who are medically excused to wear a mask need to ride a bus without one, we will make sure that they are appropriately socially distanced apart from the rest of the riders. If there's after-school activities, will there be a late bus? We will definitely cross that bridge when we come to it. We'll wait and see what's happening. We're eagerly waiting to see what's happening with the sports season. That'll certainly dictate a number of after-school activities and whether or not we need a late bus at that time. One parent asked, I want to drive my kids to school, but I would like to have an option to set them on the bus on occasion. Is that possible? Yes, you will be provided a bus route, pickup time, pickup location. That is your bus stop. If you're there, we pick you up. If you're not there, we don't. Are students taking school bus getting their temperature screens when they arrive at school? No, not initially anyway, unless something changes when the Department of Health gives guidance about what to do about asymptomatic spread. But for the most part, we're going to rely on the health screenings that are going to be done by our families before students get on the bus or are driven to school. If we drive the students to school, what are the protocol for drop-off and pickup regarding social distancing? How will traffic be managed for drop-off and pickup? Traffic is going to be an issue. I think our high school parents know already that Myers Corners on a good day in front of Ketchum is an issue at arrival time, and Route 52 at John Jay is a big issue at arrival time on any given day. It's going to be hard to say. If we're bringing in only half the students on a given day, and according to our parent survey, half the parents are planning to drive students, so we're talking about a quarter of the students getting dropped off and picked up every single day, we suspect that there will definitely be some traffic issues. Just hang in there. We'll do our best to make any adjustments as we can. But given how we aren't usually able to alleviate bad traffic on a regular day, I'm not too confident we'll be able to do much for transportation or for traffic on a hybrid day. There will be consequences for students who don't follow the rules for social distancing or mask wearing on the bus. Bus drivers will report any issues that they're having with students to our building administrators. We will not have monitors on the bus. We would have to hire at least 150 people to serve in that capacity, and we just don't have the means to do that. There are cameras on all the buses. We'll certainly be spot checking those to see if processes are being followed. As far as bus routes go, we're scheduling all of our bus runs like we normally would. They're just going to be a lot less students on the bus, but because we're only bringing in half the students a day, we are hoping that the bus runs might not look totally normal, but the ride time should be about the same. That was it in terms of Q&A from the slides and the overall presentation. So I'm going to stop the presentation, and I'm hoping that our facilitator or co-facilitator was able to populate some of the questions. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment too, and then I'm going to jump into the question side of things and see what we can answer. Again, we might not be able to answer all the questions. There are 158 people on this call, and so we're going to do our best. If it lets me look at it. Well, here we go. To pull up the grade 11 forum questions, and we'll take a look at what we got. Looks like I'm going to have to go through. Whoever just unmuted, please go back on mute.
Darren, that was
Oh,
me. I
I'm sorry.
wanted to make a
Michelle. Oh,
comment.
sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
That's okay. There was a question on driver's education, so I just wanted to address that. So the continuing education department, along with the driver's education department, is working with the driving schools, and we're paying attention to our reopening plans. Schools and students will receive information on driver's education as soon as it has been finalized. And that information will also be posted on the continuing education, driver's education website.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that update. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just ask you to stop pasting for this for a moment. I'm going to paste in all the questions from the chat as best I can. I don't quite have it in a format that I can read too well. I'm going to do my best and take them one by one. So there's definitely a question of that. So thank you, Michelle, for answering that. Let's see here. Could we have a meet and greet for incoming freshmen held outside by alphabet or in smaller groups? I'm not 100% sure about that, if that would be allowed, but certainly exploring other ideas for how we can acclimate freshmen to our school. I know it's a big transition year for them. Is something that we will definitely talk about some more. Do I enter my questions? Yeah, just the chat or the Q&A session. I'm sorry if I didn't answer it. Ideally, you put everything in the chat section. I know there's a Q&A as well, and it's a little confusing. We'll check both. Let's see. Is there a way to see the chat questions being asked? You'll see lists of questions and answers on our website when we post it. Will we be at driver's ed? Okay, that was already answered. Will classes be synchronous and asynchronous? I think we covered that. Will juniors with a driver's license be permitted to park on campus to reduce the number of students on buses? I think it's a very good idea. I just know that Ketchum and John Jay, their parking spaces differ wildly. Ketchum has a lot more parking spaces than John Jay. It's something that we'll definitely talk about with both schools. But just to give a sense, if every senior at John Jay had a parking permit and every teacher and staff member needed to come and park because they have to go to work, we wouldn't technically have enough parking spots. We'd be short quite a few to be able to get all those cars in the parking lot. So John Jay has far fewer parking spots, which is why we always have trouble with students walking too along 52. But I think with half the students coming in on an A day, B day schedule, it might be worth it to have a conversation about the flexibility and seeing if that's going to be possible or not. But we will be in touch about that. Okay. Will SATs be held? I haven't heard anything about that. Have you heard anything about that, Michelle?
So we do have an SAT that is scheduled for September because our buildings are not open at that time. I believe that is going to be rescheduled. We are working with ACT and the ACT administrators on that. But if our buildings are not set to open, we cannot host the SAT or ACT. So it's a possibility, but not while we are still remote.
Thank you very much. Hold on. All right, I gotta make sure no one pastes into this document anymore. When hybrid models start in October, will the students go 2 days and learn remote live 3 days for a total of 5 days a week? The idea of when you're on a remote learning schedule, whether or not be synchronous or asynchronous, will be determined based on the class and the like. So it won't look like a regular full day when you're remote learning. No, I'm sure of that. Dutchess Community College is offering reduced tuition to 11th and 12th grade students. Could elective credit be granted if courses taken through Dutchess? We definitely have a DCC offering. I think it'd be fair to say we should double check with the college on that. I hadn't heard that. I don't know if Michelle, if you have, but we can get some more information about that.
So my recommendation for that is that the students and parents contact the school counselors. There is a procedure that the district follows when offering high school credit for courses taken at the college.
Thank you. Will students who are fully remote, even after hybrid begins, get a regular scheduled synchronous learning? It's really going to come down to the numbers. We're not sure how many people are going to ask for totally 100% remote. And then that would, of course, depend on how much staff we have who would essentially possibly be freed up after no longer being assigned students because there's more students remote than there are in class. During the remote only period, will both synchronous and asynchronous instruction be used? Yes. Will you be having freshman orientation for Ketchum before October 26th? I think I covered that. Unfortunately, we're not sure we're not sure what orientation is going to look like. I know they're planning to do a video. If we can do more than that, we're going to talk about that, and we'll see. Do you do deep cleaning Saturday, Sunday after? Yes. We do deep cleaning Saturday, Sunday after cohort B attendance, like you do for Wednesday A team. Yep, I think I mentioned that. One of the weekend days is going to have to be used for deep cleaning as well. Going back to what Dr. Cardwell was discussing in terms of scheduled online learning, and at what point will students and their teachers be receiving these schedules? Will these schedules be flexible as they were in the spring, or will classes be more rigid? We're still working that out. Michelle, do you want to mention anything or no?
Yes, so we are working out the final details. You will receive and/or your child will receive information on the scheduled times. They're expected to log in. The teachers will be sending out information prior to the first day of school for students. This is some of the work that they will be working on during the professional development days.
Thank you. This next question is a good question, not one that has been asked yet, which is great why we're doing it by grade level. We do get grade level questions. Do we have any information about 11th grade tests, community service opportunities, clubs and activities, parentheses, basically all the things they need to be doing to prepare for college applications? Are there provisions in place to help students catch up down the line? I would say we're going to have to get back to you on this. As far as tests go, we certainly haven't heard of any cancellations besides what Dr. Cardwell had mentioned about SATs, I suppose. With 50% attendance, will juniors with their license be allowed to park? Okay, we covered that. What is the procedure if a student is sick? If they are sick at home, the procedure is different than if they are sick at school. Our plan outlines both. So I will defer to the plan on that. The question I have is at the end of October, when high school students head back, students who do not feel comfortable with the hybrid schedule, are they able to continue remote learning? We're going to offer, and we'll ask at the end of every marking period or just before this one, at some point during the very initial stage of the first marking period, we're going to ask if you want to do remote, fully remote or not, to sort of commit to it, and we'll do it one marking period at a time. So at the end, towards the end of one marking period, we'll ask you ahead of time for the next one if you wish to continue. So that way you're not committing to an entire year. What plans do individual school administrators have to deal with students at school refusing to wear masks? We're going to have to take, I'm sure, some sort of a hard stance on it. We're assuming that everyone's going to understand the need and the time that we're in, and it shouldn't. We were hoping that it won't be too hard to compel individuals to understand the importance of doing what's right and responsible for our community. Any disciplinary actions will be taken one case by case at a time. Will students be going to BOCES? BOCES will be offering a schedule, yes. What is the protocol when students do not come to school because they do not feel well? It's outlined in our plan. It'll be a sick day like anything else. If we find a student has symptoms while in school, I think it's going to be harder. As our plan outlines, you're going to have to go through extra hoops and get some notes from the doctors and whatnot to make sure that they're okay to come back to school. So if your child is not feeling well at the start of the day, you should leave them home, monitor their symptoms, and make a pragmatic approach to illness like you would at any time when they're sick. It looks like are students and teachers required to wear masks while socially distanced in their classes? Yes, we're going to ask that masks be worn to the greatest extent possible. Last question was, will juniors with license be able to park at high school? So we answered that one already. Let me just go back to the text and see if there's anything else that I missed. Looks like there's a few things. Hold on. Yeah, there's a few more. Let me just grab these. Hold on, because we got a couple more minutes. Just a moment. Paste these in. Let's see where did I leave off. All right, what happens to students enrolled at BOCES? I think we mentioned that there will be a BOCES schedule. I haven't seen it, the final schedule, but I know there's going to be one. My son was tutoring through the summer tutoring through the learning center. Would that continue virtually? I'm actually not familiar with the tutoring through the learning center. Michelle, do you know what that is?
No, I'm not familiar with what they're referring to. If
We,
they could be a little more specific, that might be helpful.
thank you.
I'm not sure if it is directly related to an IEP or 504, or if it's through one of our continuing education or after-school programs.
What additional precautions will be in place for children who go to the nurse's office for daily medications? That's a good question. No one's asked that one yet before. I know that we're going to have extra PPE on hand in the nurse's office, and I'm sure there's going to be a documented process for, I would have to go back and look, and we'll find out what the documented process is for dispensing of medications. So we'll get back to you on that. Once in-school lessons begin, will students be socially distanced for labs, or will they work together? Social distancing is going to be enforced wherever possible, is what I guess I would say with that. Are there going to be clubs? The clubs that the initial clubs are the ones that could be clubs can be clubs that can be held remotely. I think will be okay, but we're gonna have all clubs reviewed by the building principal. How will kids socially distance in hallways when they're moving from class to class? That is a major issue as well. We're going to have to come up with some sort of staggered release of some sort at a minimum, but we're going to get back to you with a more concrete plan as the time for in-person learning approaches. The biggest problem with incoming students is learning the rooms and how to navigate between them for their classes. I agree. That is why a physical orientation at the school is important. I agree. So, if we can come up with something to make that happen that is safe to do so, then we will do so. What about seventh graders when school reopens? Will they have a day or two to go and find the school, to go through school? I think it's a very similar question. We will also speak to we'll speak to that via our junior high principals with regards to any kind of orientation for our seventh graders. Will the isolation room be located at RCK if someone is suspected? Where will the isolation room be located at RCK if someone is suspected of being sick? Most isolation rooms will most likely be located in proximity to the nurse's office. I know that the nurse's office at RCK is in an odd location. I don't have the exact room location identified, but I'm not sure if we have to disclose it, but there will be one. Will there be more than one full-time, one part-time social worker when the children return to school? I'm not sure which school you're referring to. Full-time and one part-time social worker. I can guess actually that sounds like Orchard View. I don't know of any staffing changes off the top of my head for Orchard View. To my understanding, remote learning will be virtual and not as the past semester where my daughter only received assignments from her teachers and really not much interaction. Is my understanding correct? Remote learning is supposed to, as we already covered, is supposed to include more substantial teacher to student interactions. As per the state. Will the students be able to interact with their classmates virtually during synchronous part of instruction? I mean, I would hope to some degree possible. I mean, you don't want all the students talking over their peers and the teacher. It's kind of like this event that we're doing. We have a couple hundred people on here at a time for any one of these given ones. Imagine if everyone had full microphone and video capability. Sometimes just getting everyone to hit the mute button is very difficult. Will both these programs be offered remotely? I don't know if they'll have a remote program, but they are going to be offering an in-person schedule, is my understanding. Is it possible to have important communications come from one email address, or is there one place we can all go for updates? Any community update we provide goes on our reopening website. If you go to wapagerschools.org, at the very top, click on select a school. Under the first drop down, you'll see reopening our schools or reopening plans. And go to that website, and there's a communications link, and all of our community updates are there. Will parent night still occur remotely instead of in person? Good question. Not sure. We will get back to you on that. How will parents be notified if someone on the bus or in the classroom was sick or tested? We're going to rely on our contact tracing protocol, which is being developed by the county. So once that's posted, I assume that question will be answered. Will there be virtual college visits at the high school? Great question. Let's see if we can find an answer for that. And if a student stays home with an illness on an in-person day, can they participate in the remote element? I don't. Oh, yeah, maybe. Let's see what the structure of the remote. I understand the question now. They're supposed to be in class that day, but they're staying home because they're sick. Let's see what the. Let's see if there was a remote learning component that day. I assume they'll know what it is because they're part of the class, and if they choose to participate, that would probably more be up to the student than it would be to the teacher to have to make any extra steps to make that happen. But we will find out. All right, these were all very good questions. Let me just double check that I. Again, another question about the Learning Center. I guess I'm not sure what the Learning Center is. I'll have to find out. Will students be able to interact with their classmates virtually? Answered that. Does a student or a parent decide on which staying? Does a student or a parent decide on staying with 100% online learning? I depend. I mean, unless the student's 18, or making independent decisions, I would assume it's going to be the parent's decision. Will teachers be teaching from classroom or home during September? I suspect there'll be a mix. But I'm not, of course, sure. How are guidance counselors preparing differently this year for helping juniors and seniors with their college trade school guidance? I think we sort of touched upon that. We're going to get back to you on that. At RCK. I think that was at the nurse's office, I guess. I think I answered that. Thank you for, oh, you're welcome. Why does high school hybrid schedule start so late in October compared to younger grades starting early in October? High school is separate building, different location. Why can't we start also the week of 28th? We have a lot of things we have not figured out. We have a lot of things we have not done in terms of, how to clean between classes and the like. So I think it makes sense that we all start remotely. Figure out some of the best safe practices we can, and then move forward in an incremental fashion. That was the best answer I could probably give for that. Are teachers going to record their classes? I would assume some will. I'll leave that up to the teachers to decide in which scenarios it makes the most sense for them to do so. What will the protocol for vans be? Similar in terms of social distancing and masks, if that's what you're asking. And that's it. That's the end of the questions. I know not all the questions were thorough, but we will do our best to provide answers to all the questions and post them on our website in the next few days. Michelle, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. For everyone on the call, I am going to stop the recording and just thank you all, for attending. We're right at the end of the time. You guys asked a lot of questions. I hope I got to at least some of them. I know that wasn't perfect, but we really just want to thank everyone for your time and hope you all have a great day.